Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, President and Founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Standup. So without any further ado, let's get started. Today, I wanted to continue our focus on Scrum Anti-Patterns. Today, we're going to cover numbers 10, 11, and 12. So Scrum Anti-Pattern number 10, no working products. The whole premise of Scrum is to have a working product. At the end, you need to have a potentially shippable product increment at the end of every single sprint. And if I had to guess, I'm going to agree with Micheal here. He says 95% of all Scrum going on does not meet this criteria. I totally agree. People just don't understand how important it is to have a demonstrable working product that can be shown to real customers if possible, at the end of every sprint, if not near at the end of every sprint. And I think there's a gap. So I think that this is something that absolutely needs to be addressed. The whole concept of Scrum or Agile and business agility is that we have a frequent feedback loop. And if we're not constantly showing things to our customers, that means we're eliminating the ability for us to complete the feedback loop and for us to answer the important questions that the stakeholders have. So the more frequently we can meet with our stakeholders, the better off our product's going to be. That's an easy one. Coming in at number 11, the daily stand-up sucks. Oh my goodness, I hear this all the time. I think this is probably the most common anti-pattern in the whole stack, right? The purpose of the stand-up is for the team to talk to each other about what's most important for them to get work done and how they're going to go about doing it. This should never be a status report meeting. It should never be a report to the product owner, report to Scrum Master, report to executive leadership. This needs to be a for the team, by the team, and of the team kind of meeting, right? And I think that this triggers the questions changing. Now, in the past, I've talked about, what are you doing? What did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? Do you have any impediments? And while those are great questions, I think it forces us to turn into an interview sequence. And I also think it forces us to think about, just a generic list of answers that we can give to answer these questions. When a real three questions, always was and should be, did you complete the things that you committed to do yesterday? Because commitment is a big part of this. And if not, why? And no one should be asking these questions. This is information you volunteer. The second question is, what do you commit to do today? Which is another valid question and a lot deeper than what are you going to do today? But the third question is the one that I think blows my mind because it changed so much. The third question was never, do you have any impediments? The third question was, if you have an impediment that we haven't addressed, well, why haven't you told us about it until now, right? The third question forces us to think about impediment addressing and removal way prior to it ever becoming an issue that gets brought up at daily stand-up. The truth is, majority of the time, the impediments are brought up not at daily stand-up. They're brought up elsewhere. Now, if it's never been brought up before and it needs to be discussed, then of course, daily stand-up's a great place to do it. But I think that if we understand the daily stand-up correctly, the daily stand-up is a place for maybe the Scrum Master to tell us what the current working status is on impediments that they're addressing. It's a place for the team to talk about what's working for them and what they need to do to get their job done. But I don't want it to turn into a status report. And if any point it is, that means you're not doing the stand-up correctly. So I have some rules that you can look up online. I have some guides that'll help you do the stand-up better. But it should be 30 seconds per person, not to exceed 15 minutes. Only the team should be reporting. It should never be an interview. The Scrum Master should say all 3 words, let's get started. The team should immediately start reporting. And I think it's important for them to co-create a working plan of how they're going to behave and what they're going to do in order to be successful. Coming in at number 12, velocity, abuse, or misuse. Oh my goodness, here we go. Velocity was intended to be used to create forecast and for the team to learn about how they're functioning, not to misinterpret and break down and start comparing team against team or weaponize. I always use the term, you can't weaponize velocity. And I think that a lot of organizations don't understand velocity. They weaponize it. They automatically believe that the velocity number needs to equal something, right? So if the team can do 20 units a sprint, what does that mean? Does that mean it's going to take them 20 days? That's 20 days worth of work. Does it mean it's 20 hours? Does it mean it's going to cost $20,000? Is 20 people going to be involved? I don't know who went to that Dale Carnegie School of Management that taught you that everything must be fixated to a number. But the truth is, everything doesn't need to be fixated to a number, but I hear it all the time. And I think it's important for us to determine the number of story points that we can use that metric for forecasting, but it should never be used to compare one thing to another. I think that that's a violent, scary thing, and it should never be done. And the last one that I want to talk about is boring retrospectives. And I think that, this coming in at good old number 13, wow, this is a huge anti-pattern. If you're running retrospectives and every single time you say, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to talk about what went well, and you get crickets chirp, or you get the other extreme, I'll tell you what went well. Stephanie sucks. That went well. Whoa, time out, right? I think it's important for us to understand what the retrospective is for. It should be a place where people feel safe to talk about things. And it's okay if people get heated. It's okay if we have loud comments. It's totally fine. But I want everyone to have an equal voice. And I don't want it to turn into a discussion of interpersonal issues. I want it to focus on what happened during the sprint. What did we notice about, what are some things we've learned about the product as a result of the sprint? What are some things we learned about the team as a result of the sprint? Those are powerful questions and things that we need to figure out. There are tons of really good ways to do retrospectives and cool games that you can play, that you can find on innovation games, or you can find them out on Tasty Cupcakes. But I think it's important for us to identify that if our retrospectives are going poorly, that's an anti-pattern, and that these are all things that could cause organizations and teams to fail. So Micheal, thanks for that wonderful list. It really was a good list that you pulled together. And this is one of those articles that I wholeheartedly say is definitely on Agile track. As always, we encourage you, if you have a topic that you want us to discuss, shoot it over to us. We'd love to hear your topics at AgileDad. So learn more at agiledad.com. Or you can feel free to drop us a line here on social media. We'd love to hear from you. And I don't know if you knew this, but did you know that every episode of the Daily Stand-Up podcast is also available on YouTube? So if you want to watch a video of these podcasts being presented, it's recorded in both video format and audio format for your pleasure. So as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care. We'll see you tomorrow for another fantastic Friday.